Good evening, iRacers. Welcome to Apex Racing TV and our weekly coverage of the iRacing Formula 3.5 Championship. Week 7 here from Montreal. Lee Thompson here bringing you the commentary along with Sam Kumo on double duty of cameras and commentary as well. Very different circuit to last week's Samuli at Phillip Island. How are you looking forward to the race with Formula 3.5's negotiating these tricky chicanes?
Good evening everyone, and this time around we are basically on a Formula 1 track. So it is tricky, but I think it's room enough for these cars. Of course the curves here are always challenging and you really need to be careful with those, even on thin tops. I've personally had a few experience with Porsche, flipping them over when you're getting too aggressive with the curves.
Nice. Actually flipping over. Yeah, good job. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a little bit of that today, maybe with a bit of contact to help things along as well. But as you say, for sure, there's a few points on the circuit where we're likely to see some action like that, and these guys struggling to get through a corner side by side. It will be great to see, like I say, good classic Formula 1 track. It's been on the calendar for a long time now, of course, and like you say, it's it kind of looks fairly narrow, Samuli, because of all the walls, but it is actually a reasonably like I say, F1 standard width of track, and so plenty of space for these guys hopefully to really get some action and try and get some overtakes done.
Yeah, there's a few places where the track narrows up and kind of bunches up. That would be basically mostly on the first few sections of the track where you have the tight entrances into chicanes, but then on the back half, after basically at the entry to this hairpin that we just saw, and on this back straight, this is where we will see most of the overtakes taking place.
Well, we've got just a minute and a half, as you can see, left of qualifying, so while the last couple of cars get their laps in, let's have a quick look at the current championship standings so far. As I say, as we're towards the end of week 7, but of course our broadcasted race of week 7, we can see Christophe Herbinot is at the top of the standings by 10 points over Lubinor Moric. Rob Bohr then has jumped up into 3rd place, and Tim Delisle has dropped down this week, down into 4th. Matti Sipila then in 5th place with Ronaldo Augusto in 6th. Edward Saborski in 7th with Manuel Domingo in 8th. Simone Pizzica in 9th, and Jose Langer rounding out the top 10 in the standings. Who at the top are we missing from the session? I do not see Christophe Herbinot in the session. I do see Moric. I do see Rob Bohr. I do see Tim Delisle. And do we see Sipila? I do not see Sipila. So of the top 5, yeah, we're missing the championship leader Herbinot and 5th place Sipila.
Yeah, that's right. And also to keep in mind, these standings so far do not take into consideration drop weeks. So for example, this could be a drop week for Sipila and Herbinot, but I mean, of course, it's never a good idea to take drop weeks when you don't need them, because the way it works, that your worst result of the season is basically obsolete. So if you can compete for all 12 weeks, then naturally that is all the better.
And of course, when we display the standings on our stream, of course, it's not the point standings at the for the end of the week anyway. There's still opportunities for the guys to score points during the next couple of days. So it's just a snapshot of the standings as we go into this strength of field race. Right, so you can see even that qualifying has finished, and we see front row we've got Tim Delisle taking pole position with a 1 minute 20.543. Rob Bohr then lining up alongside him in second. He was 3 tenths off though, so Tim Delisle, and in fact Rob Bohr has got a bit of a gap over 3rd place Erka Lindstrom as well. So the top 2 there have got a good healthy gap over the rest of the field, it looks like. Paul Lilbrink then lining up on row 2 in 4th with Max Bartolotta in 5th. Edward Samborski in 6th with Lubomir Moric in 7th. Daniel Nogaris in 8th with Andreas Nilsson in 9th. Thomas Knoll in 10th with Cody Stout in 11th. Antonio Zaragoza in 12th. 13th position is Luke Groom with 14th Omar Bahar. 15th is Thomas Zeiger with Alessandro Roccatello in 16th. Frederic Natchen in 18th with Cedric Bill in Frederic Natchen in 17th with Cedric Bill in 18th. Riley Blythe in 19th with Christian Mies in 20th. James Mallow in 21st. and Peter Madsen in 22nd. the last of our runners. So yeah, it's a 2-split race here tonight. 22 entries in both the top split that of course we're covering here and the second split. So like I say, top 2 look like they've got a bit of a gap over the rest in qualifying, Samuli.
Yeah, it also looks like we are seeing plenty of new names here, and the SOF is maybe a little bit lower than we've seen, so I think this track is not the favorite.
Yeah, it's tricky for sure. I bet a few cars had enough in practice. Right, so you can see the lights are getting ready to go. Tim Delisle is going to have the inside line into the first proper corner. Lights go green. Tim Delisle gets a good launch off a line, covers off Rob Boyle straight away. Rob Boyle defending from Lindstrom behind. Oh, Rob Boyle loses the rear, takes out Tim Delisle. Everyone scampers around behind to try and get around. Rob Boyle losing the rear, taking out the race leader pole position, and a number of other cars getting caught up as everyone else scrambles around. What an unfortunate start there for the front row. The leading 2 cars both taking themselves out and handing the current race lead to Paul Ilbrink.
Major incident there, and it also affected the whole grid all the way down. Paul Ilbrink, he had a really lucky break there. That is, I think he started 4th, and he is now leading with a fairly safe feeling 1 second gap over Erkka Lindstrom.
Oh, yeah, I say, what a start. As you say, Paul Ilbrink did indeed start in that 4th position, so he did well to get through the instance at the start, holding on that inside line, I suspect, to negotiate round. So who have we got then after all of these changes in the opening lap? Paul Ilbrink in first and Lindstrom in second, Moritz first with Thomas Knoll. Thomas Knoll gaining 6 positions off the start up into 4th. More contact back further in the field with Edward Samborski, as we can see, trying to recover some positions. Back at the front, Nogaris in 5th, Bahan 6th, Stout 7th, Natchan 8th, Bill 9th, and Batu Lotta in 10th. So yeah, big shuffle. We can see lots of gains in the top 10 on the starting positions as Rob Boyle suffering with a bit of damage, I suspect, on that car now currently in 15th.
Oh, there's a car on the wall.
Wall of Champions there for James Mallow. Yeah, so Wall of Champions for James Mallow. Unfortunate for him. Cedric Bill struggling as well. We've seen lots of incidents already in this first lap. As you say, it perhaps suggests why we've got this slightly weaker strength of field if the guys are struggling. 4 cars in pit lane just after lap 2. And bringing in Sam Fitzpatrick joining us on commentary. You've missed a corker of the first half of a lap there, Sam.
Yes, I just saw the first corner instant, and yeah, absolutely incredible scene. Second place, just losing the rear end of the car, and really unfortunate for Tim Delisle, who took a pretty wide line, I think, into turn 1, maybe trying to avoid it anyway, but that did not work for him, so really opened it up. Paul Ilbrink, always a driver who's very strong in the race. Now that he's in the lead, he will be looking very strong for this race victory, especially whilst these guys are fighting behind Lindstrom, Moritz and Knoll. So maybe using a little bit of DRS, certainly using the slipstream there, is Thomas Knoll moving up into the podium place. Is fantastic opportunity for him. Lots of straight line speed down the back straight, so moves through the Wall of Champions, and he can set his sights on the second place man already.
Yeah, it looks like he's going to be challenging Lindstrom straight away. Lindstrom had a much worth Wall of Champions chicane there. Thomas Knoll has a little look on the approach, but backs out of it. But actually, Lindstrom went a little bit deep into turn 1, so Thomas Knoll straight away is clawing his way onto the back. So Knoll, we've seen him in every race, I think, so far this season, not being in as strong a position as this at all. So this is a huge opportunity for him to score some big points, and maybe from looks of it, even get that second position. Commentators curse Thomas. What have I done? Dropping down towards the bottom of the top 10, recovering to the 7th position. No damage on the car though, avoided contact with the wall. So hopefully he can progress back up again.
Yep, that is a great shame for him because he has so much momentum. You can see he was very confident in the car, hence why maybe dragged that car slightly too wide on corner entry, lost the rear end, and that is a great shame for him. Christian Mies going up against Peter Madsen currently, or sorry, Antonio Zaragoza currently. This for 14th place. A couple of cars just ahead of them as well. You can see the field already spreading out quite a bit. 20 seconds between P1 and P15 in this 26 lap race. But this back straight, such a long straight, real opportunity for the Joes to make some overtakes. We might see one here, a little bit of a skinnier rear wing you can see on the back of Zaragoza's car, and that was very simple for him. Rocktail really struggling down these straights, and I think once again, Lee, just as we saw at Phillip Islands last week, I think this circuit you can kind of divide you can go either way with the downforce. You can go low downforce for this pit straight and the back straight, but you can also go high downforce to get some real pace through the corners.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I say, it's really you can take either kind of philosophy with this layout, and it's going to create some big opportunities for overtakes, as I say. I think even for the cars with similar downforce philosophies, there's such a long back straight. There's going to be opportunities anyway. As Baja looking like he's going to get by on which way around is it? Defending from Cody Stout. So Baja's still defending from Stout as they head now in towards the hairpin. Baja's got the inside line. Stout's going to lose out now to Noel as well. Noel makes 2 positions. Can he get the drive off the corner to stay ahead? He can initially. Cracking job from Thomas Noel there, seeing the 2 guys ahead of him pushing out wide, holding that inside line up into 5th place. He's going to have to defend now from Baja into the final chicane, into the Wall of Champions. Can he keep his nose in enough to hold that inside line? Let's have a look. He gets rear-ended. All 3 cars taking impact. As Thomas Noel started off so well. First mistake of his own making. The second one, nothing to do with him at all. Really unfortunate for Thomas there. It looks like he had done well to keep his nose in initially. And I dare say if he didn't get tagged from behind there by Stout, it would have been, then he would have had a good chance of getting that overtake. So, and there's Stout as well. We can see retiring with damage to the pit lane as well. So what an action-packed start. We've got lots of big names out. Bohr, Delisle, Noel, all out of the race early on. It's going to be a really mixed up field here.
Yeah, definitely. And this is a great opportunity for some of the lower drivers to perhaps get a nice iRacing boost, also score lots of points for this week. Certainly Daniel Nogueras currently running in 4th place. Omar Baja, of course, running in 5th after that big incident. Somehow managed to get through it unscathed and up 9 places from his start. So real opportunity. Also Bartolozza, as we're watching, starts in 5th place. So something must have happened to Bartolozza earlier on in the event. He must have got caught up in that turn 1 incident. But he's got real momentum, and maybe even a podium place could be possible for him. We're about a quarter of the way, about a 5th of the way through this race as it's a complete lap 5.
Lap 5 already. It's flying by as we finally get, after all, actually get an opportunity to have a little look back at the start, and we see where Bartolozza get caught up. He tried his best to avoid getting tangled with the cars around him, but unfortunately the slowdown of traffic ahead just caused him too much of an issue. So that's where he lost his positions, and I dare say he got a little bit of damage as well, though the car visually looks okay on my screen, but we'll see how he manages to continue through the race. No doubt we'll be looking back at that turn 1 incident at the end of the race when we've got a bit of time to really see exactly how everyone got affected. But yeah, Bartolozza there recovering, as you said, in that 6th position. Riley Blythe defending at the minute in 8th position from Samborski. Samborski looking to go up the inside under the bridge. Riley looking to hang on in there, does do well to hold off, but I think Samborski's got a good drive off the corner, and now he'll have the line into the hairpin, and the Evolution Racing Team driver will get relegated down into that 9th position.
Yeah, that was good fighting from those two. Really courteous to leave quite so much room for one another. I think particularly the driver on the inside, Samborski, was very generous. Could have easily understeered his rival off the circuit, but stayed to his side of the circuit. And now, are they going to go side by side into the final chicane? This one's even more difficult with the very narrow nature of this. And of course, the wall very close on the exit as well. Samborski, hangs on for now, but once again under pressure from the toe. And Blythe now gets involved as well, just behind. Here comes Blythe on the outside of turn 1. He'll keep his nose on the inside for 2, and there's more contact. And off the circuit goes Samborski. Really good move earlier on in the lap, but that time just didn't quite leave his opponent enough room on the inside.
Yeah, it looks unfortunate, and I think that was a bit of netcode contact as well. I was going to say earlier on in the lap that yeah, the guys have done well to give themselves space, because we can see from the driver details in the left corner that Riley is an Australian/New Zealand driver, so he's obviously got some big ping compared to the Euro drivers around him. And unfortunately, I think that's what caused Samborski his issue there on the first chicane. So yeah, shame for them. Blythe continues under pressure again straight away from Zaragoza for that 8th position. So we'll see how that develops as the race continues. Zaragoza was much quicker last time by, of course, with the squabbling between Blythe and Zamborski.
Yeah, it's about 2.5 seconds faster. And when you do pipe down this pace, can cost you a lot of time. Just going offline for some of these chicanes really does ruin your exit for the next corner. Here comes Zarkowska down the insides. And that should be pretty simple for him. Not much defense put up by his opponent, although he actually stayed around the outside. I really thought that Blythe was going to back out of that one. But actually was quite deep on the brakes, kept his nose in there. And once again, we're going to see the same thing going into turn 1, round the outsides. And this time there shouldn't be contact into 2. So Zaragoza gets ahead this time. And now you can see Roccatello also gets involved. He was 2 seconds faster than these two on the last lap.
Yeah, so like I say, really is still shuffling itself out as these guys are recovering from their instance earlier on. Last time by, quickest driver on the track was the race leader, though, Paul Ilbrink with a 22.0. So he's looking pretty comfortable with a 5-second lead now, building up to Erka Lindström, who was half a second slower last time by. Then we've got a nice little group of cars in the high 22s, in the low 23s. So I dare say it's going to stay fairly competitive then for like 3rd place down. But we can see on the track map on screen in a minute that those cars are all just spread out a little bit down that back straight. So we haven't got really any big battles developing for the top 5 for now. Let's see how Moritz does trying to close up on Lindström. But last time by 22.8 for Lindström and just a fraction quicker for Moritz. So not really enough that time by. And we can see on the last few laps, it's really ebbs and flowed between the two, and Moritz has made a net loss on that since lap 4. So our first little battle really is for 6th position between Bahar and Bartolotta. There's 7 tenths between them. But otherwise, yeah, the field's maybe just calming down a little bit as everyone's got themselves into their positions and trying to get a bit of rhythm after the carnage of the opening laps.
Yeah, definitely. Of course, one of the massive things about this circuit isn't just about avoiding collisions with your opponents, but just avoiding collisions for yourself. It's so easy to make a mistake. And if you do make a mistake, then you're quickly heading off into the wall. So just keeping your car clean for the entire 26 laps, really, really important. You've got to keep that intensity up. You've got to constantly be analysing your own driving, picking up on your minor mistakes. Otherwise, it's going to turn out to be quite costly. Really quick run around that hairpin there for Bartolotta. And he's certainly got a great chance into this chicane. Any defence put up by Bahar here? Doesn't look like it. He might try to really brake late on the outside. They're going to go side by side, and Bahar loses the rear end, gets it back going again, only loses the 1 place. But was giving his rival plenty of room on the inside, but just locking up the brakes there.
Yeah, it's a bit strange. Like I say, perhaps Bahar, as you said, was just trying to brake as late and deep as he could. But yeah, with that, loses a rear. So he's fortunate not to make contact with Bartolotta or indeed the wall, of course. So he gets to live another day. But he's a bit in no man's land now. 5 seconds to the car ahead, 3 seconds to the car behind. Riley Blythe back in 9th position, trying to hold on to that spot whilst Roccatello continues to close and move up. Roccatello, though, running very, very deep into the second chicane. They're nearly running out of track and loses a little bit of time, and that battle cools off again for half a lap or so, I dare say. We can see most of the field on the track map is covered by the sort of the first half of the track now. So not going to be much traffic, it doesn't look like, for the leaders anytime soon. But looks like it's a few little clumpings of battles. 13th, 14th, 15th looks reasonably close. And we can see sort of 8th, 9th, 10th are fairly tight there as well.
Yes, and I'm sure that other drivers are going to kind of be dragging towards one another later on in the race. I'm sure there's going to be a couple of self-spins, and that could put into question maybe their result later on. Fastest lap of the race just went to Paul Ilbrink, by the way, 22.01. He seems to have about half a second a lap on everyone out there. So cruising away from the rest of the field. Pete Madsen still ahead of Luke Groom, was 1 second faster than that last lap. Christian Mies really closing in. He was 2 seconds faster than Luke Groom, and now that gap going below 1 second.
Yeah, and we can see the weather conditions out there reasonably warm for the guys here with this 10 o'clock local time that the session's running at. What we're looking at, 19-degree air temperature, 23 degrees track. So, not hot, but it's not exactly cold. So the guys you'd think would be not having too many issues with their tyres now as they're continuing through the race. It's a shame that we haven't yet got any real varying weather in iRacing yet. It'd be great to see a bit of drizzle come down halfway through the race maybe and really mix things up again for the end. Luke Groom we can see in 14th position, trying to hold off Christian Mies still in 15th. Was their lap times like last time by? Luke Groom about a second slower last time by, so I'm expecting Christian Mies to continue to close and probably look to make a move as they come towards the Race of Champions this time. But ahead of they do through the hairpin on this one. Luke Groom looking pretty clean on entry, tiny bit deeper, and later on a turn in for Mies behind. And he's going to close in the slipstream, but it's not going to be enough, in fact, for a move into the next chicane. My timing screen now for intervals has gone all white. That is not the sign of lots of battles happening. Unfortunately, we want to see lots of yellow and lots of red intervals out there. But Mies did close a lot into that final chicane in the end, but it still wasn't quite enough.
Yeah, just that damage on Luke Groom's car really costing him a lot. So as long as Mies is within probably about 0.8 of a second coming out of the hairpin, he should be straight past. And of course, these drivers have the option of using the DRS, I believe about 6 times during the race, something like that. You press it, and until you press the brake on that lap, you can use it all the way. So that is a real strategic option that these drivers have. Of course, you cannot afford to waste them. Mies, I think it might be worth using one just to make absolutely sure of that move. Down the back straight, you can see just struggling through that left-right section, ever so difficult, especially on iRacing. I know the F1 Codemaster games horrendously get this circuit wrong. So many of the corners are totally different on that game, with the track width much wider, with some of these corners a lot more flowing, but actually very tight, twisty, and really only one line for many of these ones. And actually very strong run for Mies within 0.6 of a second. So we'll see this close once again. He usually gains about 0.8 of a second down this straight. You can really see now the gap reducing, and we're about 2/3 down the straight, pulling alongside. And Christian Mies eventually moves ahead, although I say Luke Groom had other ideas in the braking zone.
And I can see 9th and 10th position beginning to have a little bit of a battle again this time by. Sorry, not 9th and 10th, 10th and 11th. Sorry about that. Roccatelli, we can see trying to hold on from Andreas Nilsson now, who's coming up behind him pretty quick. Second quicker last time by. And so Roccatelli is going to be struggling, I think, to hold on to that top 10 position for much longer. Do love that Italian livery on Roccatelli's car. You see the detailing on there with the little intricate patterns as well, and yeah, it really looks nice and clean. But a plain black car behind him on my screen is going to be unfortunately getting past very, very quickly, I think. Also, I can see closing up ahead is Natchen on Baha for 6th as well, so there's going to be a position made there soon as Andreas Nilsson does indeed pull out the slipstream and pretty easily get a move done on Roccatelli there into the final chicane. So Nilsson recovering up into 10th place, and that means he's only lost 1 spot from his grid now.
Yeah, good recovery drive for car number 9. And he is 3.6 seconds behind Blythe, who of course had that little bit of a spin earlier on, but hasn't seemed to have affected him too much since then. Must say Roccatelli's livery, yeah, I absolutely agree. His livery is very good. Has had it for a while. He used to race in the Apex Racing League Renault 3.5 series a few months ago. And yeah, probably about 6 months ago. Probably
I was going to say, probably nearly a year now, mate. I'm afraid. I think it was start of 2019, I believe, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. And and we was running it there. And I think I said this earlier on in the season, but Jovi was really improved. It started off that season quite a bit off the pace, but you can see him here, a consistent top split driver. But I don't think he's going to have enough to keep back Zamborski, who's had issues for himself so far today. Vocatello will keep his car down the inside. If anything, he can't want to be behind. Maybe here. Although Zamborski has another spin, trying desperately to get the power on. He really felt as though just get the power on that little bit earlier than normal, and he might be able to pull ahead, but that was too eager there.
Yeah, it looked like that might have ended in a little bit of tears there. Roccatello did his best to stay as far away as he could, and yet it seemed Samborski might be spearing towards him anytime soon. But we can see now, nice little battle developing for 7th and 8th position between Nachin and Zaragoza. Zaragoza nearly losing it through turn 1 and 2. Did well to gather it back up again and have another little bit of a go. We can see not far behind them either still is Riley Blythe, so if they start squabbling, that's going to become a 3-car battle pretty soon, as 4th position change there for Bartolotta up into 4th over Nogueras. Relegated down to 5th, but still gained 3 spots over his grid position. Bartolotta almost a second quicker last time by, so yeah, he's been working up towards that position fairly consistently over the last few laps.
Very poor lap that last time by Paul Ilbrink. He was 2 seconds slower than his best lap of the race. Bartolozzo, by the way, just equaled Paul Ilbrink's fastest lap of the race. Seems as though Paul hasn't got too much damage on that car. What's the big concern as well is that you smashed into the wall, and a little bit of an issue there as well. Maybe just overheating the tyres a little bit. That last lap actually was the fastest lap of the race though. Ilbrink at 21.96. So he's straight back on it. It'd be interesting to see what that mistake was. Maybe just cutting across the chicane, picking up a slowdown perhaps is quite possible, though. Quite rare in these single-seater cars to cut a curb because they are quite large GT cars. They're very simple to do at this next corner, just clamber all over it. But I think these single-seaters go completely around it. And Ilbrink seems to be back on his way, but 5 seconds clear of the rest of the field.
Yeah, like I say, it certainly doesn't seem to be suffering from any ill effects of whatever his issue was earlier on. As you say, for sure, straight back on it again. So another quick run through the top 10 then, as we've got 10 laps remaining. Paul Ilbrink, as we're watching, yeah, looking pretty comfortable out in front, even if he is pushing hard. And you know, he needs to make sure he doesn't put too many little mistakes in, because there's not really any opportunity for recovering on this track. All the walls are so close. That one little mistake and that could be it. But for now, looking pretty comfortable. Second place then, Urka Lindström, just half a second slower last time by, 5 seconds down. He's only got 2 seconds now, though, over Lubomir Moric, who is still matching him pretty much on the last lap. So they're looking very, very even. So again, Lindström needs to ensure he doesn't make any further little errors during the race. Otherwise, he's going to find Moric challenging him for that second place very, very quickly. After lots of Enel, we saw a minute ago taking that position 4th and 5th. Then Baja in 6th, and then as we're watching now, Zaragoza in 7th, just getting past, I think, a moment ago, Frederick Nachin. I saw the change of position on the timing screen, so we'll see if Nachin recovers that spot in a minute. Then in 9th is Riley Blythe, and rounding out the top 10 is Andreas Nilsson, who saw get past Roccatella just a few moments ago. So yeah, Nachin we saw there last time by a second slower than Zaragoza. I think that's maybe been coming for a while. Their best laps are fairly similar sort of pace as well. So I think Nachin maybe is going to struggle to keep up now. As Zaragoza, though, nearly overcooks it into the chicane.
Zaragoza, a driver who is the 20th highest I-rated driver in this race. He's got an I-rating of 2,600, and I'm so to say he's driving far above that. Nachin, 3,400 there ahead of Blight. He's got 4,100. Zamborski with 4,500. So a really impressive this from Zaragoza. And certainly he will be boosting that as long as he gets a decent result here. To be fair with the retirements that we've had, if he did retire at this point, wouldn't be too costly to his I-rating. Seems to have good straight line speed, pulling away from his rival a little bit, in fact quite significantly. That gap gaining by about 0.2 of a second down that one straight, so maybe running a little bit less downforce, as just behind them Zamborski does get ahead of Roccatello this time. Spun the last time he had a go, and he spun again in both directions. and that is his, third incident of the day, and this one has caused him a bit of extra damage, and that
I
is
think he's
going to
done.
be game over for Edward Zamborski. Great shame for him. Had decent pace. I think even maybe a top 5 could have been possible for him, but just too many incidents, and Roccatelli involved in that one.
Yeah, it really has been caught up in a number of instances, these two cars, like you say. So Roccatelli now we can see with severe front wing damage on that right front corner. But yeah, Zamborski unfortunately having to take to pit lane. So that's a real shame. Yeah, you're saying about Zaragossa's iRating a minute ago. Yeah, he's in line now for gaining the 3rd highest amount of iRating. If he holds this position, no, I've done it again. Commentator's curse. Dropping it on the entrance to the hairpin does very, very well to keep it out the wall on the braking and slot himself in amongst the traffic. Can he gather his composure up and make these positions back up again? He's gained 1 straight away. Just as 1 spot lost now, but very, very lucky not to put it in the wall on the approach to the hairpin.
Yeah, that was extremely close, and it just shows the difficulty of this circuit. Once again, a Joe just making an error, and quite frustrating, I imagine, for quite a few of these guys. But at least they haven't hit the wall, and you can see Zaragozza's car very clean at the moment, but now has to get back past Natchan, and there's any hope of catching up to Baha up the road. Surely evaporated now. Nielsen just at the back of this back of this pack was half a second faster than Blythe. So really contrary speeds, all these drivers. It's difficult to actually tell who's the fastest, but they've all had their different issues, and they've ended up all on the same piece of tarmac right now.
Yeah, like I say, great little battle developing. It'll be interesting to see if these guys can continue to battle clean in, not have any further little issues. We've seen how quick Zaragoza can be, but with his maybe lower I rating, maybe that suggests he's lacking a little bit of experience. So this is going to be a key time for him to just try and keep his nose clean, not get tangled up with another car, not try to overdrive and make another silly little mistake. If he can just keep it fairly consistent, then he should be within a good shout of coming out on top of this little battle. But yeah, nice to see these 4 cars grouping together now. So Natchan, Zaragoza, Blythe and Nielsen all battling for 7th to 10th position.
Nogueras just had a poor lap, was about 2.5 seconds on that last lap. The driver currently running in 5th place, but again, once again, recovered decently. Maybe just slow down so the drivers are picking up, or just tiny little mistakes, but there are quite a few littered about. Looking very racy right now is Nielsen. Not really much of an opportunity on this part of the circuit to overtake them.
It was pretty interesting that actually after Zaragoza's issue, as we watch Nielsen trying to come up the inside of Blythe, almost slides into his side pod, but just about manages to keep a tight enough line and has to wait for another opportunity. Is Blythe going to defend now under the bridge? He's not, but he looks pretty comfortable under braking. I was just going to say, it was interesting that even with Zaragoza's issue last time by, he only managed to lap 3/10 off his fastest. So somehow it didn't affect him too much, just that loss of position. And there we go. Andreas Nielsen just about keeping it out the wall again, just an off track for him there. So that's let Riley Blythe off the hook for now, and he's going to give him an opportunity to try and concentrate on the cars ahead. And these are the cars ahead. So Natchan already been closed right up by Zaragoza again. So again, Zaragoza's got a bit of breathing space behind, so there's not a mad rush. He needs to maybe be a little bit patient if he can, and really pick a nice clean opportunity to get by and try and recover that 7th position. Just 5 laps remaining.
Yeah, 4/10 faster, and yeah, 5 laps remaining. It has absolutely flown by this race. Been so much action with not being short on stuff to talk about. And Zaragoza, yeah, certainly the favourite in this battle. But Natchan, I think, probably one of the most consistent drivers. I can't remember him having a spin or an off so far. Just been absolutely rock solid. And it might be wise for him not to put up too much of a fight against Zaragoza. He seems to be pretty quick down the street, so you can see that slightly thinner wheeling. It can be a little bit deceiving sometimes, what we see. but it certainly should help him down this straight. And if they got any more DRSs to use, they are going to have to use it right now. The gap between the two of them coming out of the hairpin about 6.5 tenths, but Zaragoza really closing in 4 tenths of a second. Down to 3 tenths, now 2, pulls out, just a glance though.
Yeah, and he does the right thing. You know, he wasn't close enough, was he, to make a real clean opportunity? So he just tucked back in, made sure he didn't outbreak himself. Is he going to get an opportunity now into turn 1 while Natchan doesn't defend? But again, sensible driving from Zaragoza. He doesn't shove his nose in when he doesn't need to. He's got plenty of time. He's not under pressure from behind still. So he's got the opportunity to, as I say, really try and make sure of a clean move. I'd agree with your assessment of Natchan as well, having a clean race. Our timing system records incidents in a slightly different way to iRacing itself, but it shows him as having 0 incidents so far in this race. So that's a good sign, as you say, that he's not got himself tangled up. He's just kept his nose clean, and that's allowed him to have these 10 positions gained from his starting spot. I dare say Zaragoza is going to have a look into the hairpin this time by. So can he get a clean exit out of the chicane here? Looked pretty good to me, and I think he'll be in a strong position now coming into the hairpin.
Yeah, on the inside.
We
Can he
lose
get
the rear
the car
slightly.
stopped? He locks the front tyres up a little bit, runs a little bit wide, but that all seemed to be in order. Really good exit though for his rival Natchan. Zaragoza though, as I said before, with that skinnier rear wing, should have the advantage down the straight, and he is now pulling ahead down the straight, 1 tenth of a second ahead with that inside line. It should be quite simple for him, but has got to get a decent exit from this chicane if he's going to be protected into turn 1. Now it's Natchan gaining in the slipstream, but it's not going to be nearly enough into 1 as they move on to lap 23 of this race. Really not long to go, 4 more laps, and Zaragoza moves back up into 7th place.
So yeah, so good job from Zaragoza. So he's made up for his error from a few laps ago. He did, he was patient. He did take his time, and then ultimately get a nice clean move in. And if he can just keep the mistakes out of the way now, he should have the pace just to gradually pull away and settle into that very strong 7th position. Up the front, seeing a little bit more of a battle developing for 2nd position now. So a little bit more. Moritz is close to within just over a second of Lindstrom now, and it was more like 2.2, I think, last time by, when we last checked in with him, rather, not last time by. So we'll see how this develops over the next couple of laps. Again, Moritz was a 10th quicker fastest lap, but actually they matched each other on that last lap. So let's see how that turns out for the next couple of laps. You can see on the track map, car number 2 highlighted in green, well, position number 2 highlighted in green. You can see up ahead they have got a back marker they're going to be coming up to, position 14. So it could well be an opportunity for Moritz to try and close up a little bit more if they catch him at an opportune moment. But yeah, maybe heating up a little bit for 2nd. Otherwise, timing screens just cooled down a little bit as that battle at the back end of the top 10 has seemed to have sorted itself out for now.
Yeah, seems to, well, Blythe is actually catching back up to Natchan, so could be a little bit more action there, but we'll certainly keep one eye out for this battle. As it goes down to 8 tenths. Good exit though for Lindstrom. Of course, kind of difficult to judge the gap through there. You can go in very deep, but then, of course, compromising the exit potentially. Of course, tries to take all kinds of different lines. Sometimes tries to square it off, sometimes just try to hug the inside line. Is a very difficult corner to nail. Moritz not gaining anything down the straight, so maybe Lindstrom running a little bit less downforce. That straight line speed seems to be quite handy for him. Moritz gaining 1 tenth of a second on this lap, but not doing enough at the moment unless Kurt does make a mistake. Still 7 seconds off the lead.
Yeah, it looked like Lindstrom just struggled a little bit maybe through turn 1. Took a little bit too much curb. I think we really saw the car sort of pogoing through the entry to turn 2 as it tried to recover from that impact. So yeah, Moritz within a second now, as we can see from the battle screen in the bottom right corner. Another battle going on right on cue. Blythe is challenging, just like Sam pointed out to us, on Natchan. So do they avoid the netcode this time? Good job from Blythe trying to stay wide, mid-corner on turn 2, but it ultimately just cost him a little bit too much apex speed. He almost gets squeezed onto the grass by Natchin at the end there as well. Fortunate to recover that. And all of a sudden, Adrian Nilsson is back in amongst it after his error a couple of laps ago. So this free-car battle all of a sudden develops as Life almost loses a rear under braking, just a little bit of a twitch. But yeah, he's under pressure now as well.
Yeah, got to be very aware of the driver behind, and this could compromise their efforts at catching up to the passing Natchin if Blythe and Nielsen start fighting. It's an opportunity into their hairpin.
And the leader starts the final lap, so these guys got a lap and a bit to go as Andreas Nilsson fires one up the inside into the hairpin. Blythe gives him plenty of room. Nilsson looked like he got a clean drive off. We can see the rear of Blythe twitching under power, but he's got the slipstream, had the slipstream, has moved out quite early as Blythe. Doesn't look like he's quite going to get the run as they come down towards the Wall of Champions chicane.
Nielsen pulls ahead. Blythe, yeah, had a little bit better straight line speed, but Nielsen with that better inside line. You can see really happy is Fredrik Natchin currently, because he's pulling away 0.7 of a second now. His margin over these drivers fighting over 9th and 10th. And now Nielsen, not many corners to make up that gap on the car ahead. Lindström and Moich got that gap staying about 1 second still. Doesn't look like there's going to be any change there. And there's not going to be any change out in lead for Ilbrink, who started down in 4th place, but took advantage of that start and has been faultless since.
Yeah, we've seen him, like I say, capitalise on that opening lap at the start. We saw him make maybe one little mistake halfway through the race, pretty faultless as far as we can see the rest of the time. Congratulations for a very clean win for Paul Ilbrink. Certainly not his first of the season. He's had a few races under control this season, as that certainly looked like one of those. Moritz ended up finishing 7/10 down on Lindström, but again, it wasn't enough. Here's a battle for the back of a top 10, still finishing up though. Natchin 8th, Nielsen 9th, and Blythe just dropping back in 10th. How much of a draft can Nielsen get as they come down a back straight? It's going to be pretty close, I think. Is he going to pull out on the approach to the braking zone? Has a little look, but he's not quite close enough. Doesn't make a crazy move. Can Natchin get through the chicane cleanly? Good job. Doesn't take too much curb. And Natchin gets that 8th position. Nielsen has to settle for 9th. Okay, good. So frantic beginning, cooled off a little bit sort of once we got to the middle of the race, and then we got a few nice little battles developing again at the end. Only 16 finishes I think we had in the end on that race. Took a few casualties, 22 starters, and Christian Mies here is going to be the last of the cars on track to come across the line nice and clean through the final chicane, and takes that 13th position, and a nice little bit of iRacing for him as well. 27 iRacing gained is our prediction on our timing software.
Yes, and yeah, it was a very entertaining race, no doubts, with a lot of crashes out there. But no, it was very entertaining. That first lap, in the end, potentially deciding, but credit to Paul Ilbrink, who managed to navigate his way through it. And like you said, some iRacing game for some drivers, and certainly Nogueras and Zaragoza, very successful day for them.
Yeah, and certainly not successful for others. We saw on the screen there a moment ago, Rob Bohr losing 109 iRating, and not shown on screen was Tim Delisle, highest iRated driver in the session, #1 driver, lost 157 iRating. Ouch, that's a real shame for that turn 1 incident. Right, so let's have a quick look then at the race results. Paul Ilbrink, as we saw, once he got through the carnage in turn 1, never really looked in doubt, with maybe a little bit of a blip mid-race. We'll find out from Paul what that was in a little while, I'm sure. 8 seconds ahead he finished in the end of Erka Lindström, so he pulled another 3 seconds or so from the last 5-6 laps, I think. A little bit more Muric then finishing in 3rd, 7/10 down on Lindström. Max Bartolotta keeping a good effort in 4th after getting a couple of positions sort of midway through the race, then was left on his own the rest of the time. Daniel Nogueras in 5th with Omar Baha in 6th. Antonio Zaragoza in 7th with Fredrik Natchin in 8th. And just Nielsen then couldn't quite get that position in the end, finishing less than 2 tenths down on Natchin in 9th. Riley Blythe filling out the top 10. Alessandro Roccatella then in 11th with Peter Madsen in 12th. Christian Mies in 13th, last of runners on the lead lap. Thomas Zeiger then, Luke Groom and Cedric Bill all finished the race 1 lap down. So his 16th position was the last finisher. Edward Zamborski then we saw getting caught up in a number of incidents, 9 laps down. Thomas Knoll unceremoniously wiped out by Cody Stout, honest mistake I'm sure from Stout, into the final chicane. And then Rob Bohr and Tim Delisle, as we saw, retiring after that first lap incident, and James Mallow also getting caught up in amongst there as well. So those were our 22 runners for the evening. Should we have a quick look at a fairly wide angle of the race start, Samuli, if we can, and then we'll bring Paul into interview, and so we have a sense of how he got through that carnage on opening lap. So Paul Ilbrink, we can see with the Radicals rear wheeling there, just tucked behind P number 2. So how does he get from that 4th position, second row, into the lead? So here comes Delisle and Bohr at the front. One more car on the inside as well. Ilbrink goes wide initially and is very, very lucky to be able to go through the middle between Bohr and Delisle. So I wondered at the time if he had taken a tight inside line and let them two sweep alongside. But no, in the end, he was fortunate, maybe managed to nip between the two of them immediately after their contact.
Yeah, definitely, but still decent reactions to that. And I think he maybe just backed up a little bit through turn 1, didn't fully commit to it. And that just enabled him to have a little bit more time to think where to navigate his car. But yeah, no doubt, very fortunate. Well, I'm certainly much more fortunate than Tim Delisle was out there. And from that point onwards, pretty simple for Ilbrink.
Yeah, so Paul Ilbrink joins us in the commentary booth now. We just had a quick look at the lap 1 replay to see how you got from that 4th into the lead, Paul. How much of that would you put down to luck avoiding the carnage, and how much is your many years of experience in iRacing that got you into the position you needed to be?
100% talent.
Okay, good. That's the answer I was hoping for. Yeah, absolutely predetermined, saw that come in, knew exactly where to put yourself on track, right?
It was the reason why I qualified in 4th, so I was on the outside, had a bit of room to maneuver, and yeah, I saw it all before the race even started. So no, I was just lucky to be like on that outside line, I guess. It was just a right. Like all races, can always be a bit messy here in turn 1, so you're not like 100% committed and pushing into the corner, like leaving a little bit of room and distance to the car in front, and that paid off here because, I saw them like crashing, and I could like slow down a bit more and then just work my way through once the gap opened.
Yeah, it looked very nice from the shot we just saw where as you say, managed to go between the two of them immediately after the contact. So managed to nip into that space very nicely. Looked like you had the race sort of pretty much under control for the rest of the time. We saw on the timing screen one little blip, maybe sort of halfway, 2/3 of the way through, where you had a lap maybe 2 seconds down. Do you know what happened on that one?
Yeah, like I made like a couple mistakes during the race. The gap was like fairly big after a couple of laps already, so you're trying to, you're like relaxing a bit, focus goes away a bit, so you start like more like looking for improving best lap and that kind of stuff, and just like a bit too eager out of some of the corners, and you get a little bit of wheel spin and still keep the throttle on, and you'll just like lose the car. And yeah, that happened. Like that one lap was particularly slow. It was like in the second chicane, I think, at the exit where I lost it. And at like 1 or 2 times out of the final chicane as well, where I had some wheel spin and had to catch the car before I would end up in the wall. So.
So how much of that is the trickiness of these specific cars? I mean, obviously, we know they're relatively nervous getting on the power. How are they coping with recovering from the curb strike on the chicane to then trying to get the power off those slow corners?
It's a little bit like it's not always. I think the tricky thing is that most of the times it's fine, and I think sometimes you might have just like heated up the tires a bit too much, and all of a sudden it starts like sliding when you don't expect it to happen. That's a bit tricky about it, but once you notice it's happening more often, you take back a little bit and take it a bit more easy, and like everything is fine again. So yeah, it's just like it's never been like my favorite track either. So I have a bit of bad memories of it. So I was just happy to make it to the end and not have too much pressure from behind to bring it to the finish first.
Great. Well, I'll say congratulations then for taking a win at not a favoured circuit for you. What about next week then at Kota? Obviously, yeah, completely opposite circuit. You know, wide runoff areas, lots of medium to high speed corners. Not really these little fiddly chicanes and curb strikes to worry about so much. How are you prepping for Kota next week?
Well, I have triple screen, so that's a big plus here at Coda, I guess. So yeah, it's like a nice track, and it should be very well suited to these cars as well. So I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, great. All right, well, thank you for your insight into your race tonight. If you want to give your shout-outs, Paul.
Yeah, I want to thank everybody at the Radicals Line, all my teammates and everybody that helped. Then our partners and sponsors, Grindfield Simulation, Joe Real Timing, Arma Center, as a Sim Race, Mode F Podcast, Turn Racing, Sim Mortal, Six Sideways, and Pixel Dust for doing a nice living.
Okay, great. All right, thanks very much, and Paul. We'll look forward to hopefully seeing you again next week and getting another good race result at Kota. So thank you for joining us.
All right.
Cheers. Okay, so as tends to be the case for this series, only Paul tends to join us each week for an interview, don't they? So come on, guys. You know, okay for this week now. You know, time's got on a little bit, but the link for Discord is in YouTube. So maybe get that set up and ready for next week, and then you can come in for a couple of interviews as well, and we can try and get a few of you drivers your thoughts on the race.
I think we might have another driver.
I was going to say, right on cue.
Yeah.
Following the instructions that are given, I think we're going to have Edward Samborski is going to be my guest from the Discord name. So let's drag him in and have a quick chat as well. I'm guessing Edward Samborski, how are you doing this evening? Welcome to the commentary booth. Looked like you had some good pace out there, Edward, but got caught up in a few incidents.
Oh, for sure. I guess it's not my day. Between netcode and some other stuff and spinning on my own, I really would have liked to got through turn one without cutting through the whole first corner, I guess. I felt like I had nowhere to go. I haven't watched the replay, unfortunately. I don't know if I had an option to go left, but I just assumed going right would get me through all the carnage, and then the 3-second slowdown didn't really help.
Yeah, I think it was chaotic for a lot of drivers through turn one, so it certainly wasn't only you, and it certainly wasn't a lapse of judgment that you got yourself tangled up in that. I think everyone was really scrabbling for just finding a little bit of space. I don't think we saw you get any actual damage from that though, so I think your car felt okay after that then, did it, Edward?
Oh, the car was great. I actually felt really good all day. I didn't have a chance to really, to use the pace. After the lap one, I was in traffic and I couldn't really get my rhythm going. So I was ducking in and out of cars, and you know how it is when you're driving. You get 3 or 4 laps and then you start finding the pace, you're getting right on the limit, and you start gaining more time. And once I got in clear air, I could finally start building some momentum, and then I'd get up to someone. It just seemed like either netcode or a lapse in judgment or something just kept hampering me.
Yeah, and this is really a tricky track for the rhythm as well. You know, it really is a key circuit to get comfortable and get those rhythm. And as you say, if you don't find that, then it's really tricky to make any further headway. But like you say, ultimately, really unfortunate with a number of contacts during the race. We're at Kota next week, Edward. How do you feel about that track compared to here at Montreal?
I like the circuit. Unfortunately, I don't think I'll be as fast. For some reason here at Montreal, I can really take advantage of the braking zones and the tricky nature of the chicanes. I just, for whatever reason, seem to get through them okay. Except for the hairpin. Getting on the power there has given me all sorts of trouble today. But I'm going to practice all week, and I'll do the best that I can. Hopefully it'll be like Phillip Island, where I can just tag on the back of Paul, and maybe he'll drag me up front.
Yeah, well, hopefully all your bad luck finished up this week as well. We just saw right on cue a replay of one of your netcode incidents. I called it as netcode at the time. Unfortunately, you were side by side with Riley Blythe driving in Australia, so always going to struggle with a bit of netcode. And yeah, indeed, in turn 2, it was definitely netcode contact there. So unlucky to be on the receiving end of that. But as I say, hopefully you have better luck next week at COTA. And we look forward to, as you say, seeing you up at the sharp end.
I hope so. Well, I'm definitely gonna. I'll probably spend most of tomorrow practicing. I'll see what I can do. I mean, if I can survive a top 5 finish, I'd be happy. I really think today I probably could have ran second or third. I don't think I would have beat Paul. I probably would have made a mistake here or there. But I don't know. I'm kind of disappointed. I would have liked to have seen what could have been.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, we look forward to seeing that improved result next week. Then, Edward, thanks very much for joining us in the commentary booth. Please do the same again next week as well.
You're welcome. I'm all set up now. I had to figure it out here, so it took me a little while to get in.
Excellent. No worries.
All right. Take care.
Cheers,
guys.
then. Thanks. Okay, so just before we wrap up the night's broadcast, can we just have a quick look at maybe 1 or 2 more shots of the start? Samuli, I reckon. What do you reckon? On board from Rob Bohr? I reckon that's going to be a good camera angle to have a look at. So yeah, here we are, T-cam up on Rob Bohr. I like this bug in iRacing at the minute of seeing the rear wheels of the next car spinning away on the grid. Thought, yeah, not quite as good a start as Tim Delisle, but not far off, but just goes way too hot in. And yeah, 1 tag on the right, 1 tag on the left, then hit from behind as well. Ooh, that was yeah, that was just a pure misjudgment, I think, on the turn in to turn 1. Was it far too late on the brakes? Just cold tires, and that was it. A complete passenger after that. Peter Madsen, let's see what happened to him much further back in the grid. Where did he start on the grid? 22nd or 23rd? 22nd, I reckon it'll be. Nice cautious start. Let everyone scamper away. Gets 1 car on the left. And let's watch the carnage in fold ahead. I think we're just going to see cars go in every direction. So trying to take to the outside, trying to stay out of the way. Cars turning around. It looked like we did a decent job of keeping out of trouble to this point. And now... Okay, Peter Madsen keeping his nose clean. He's going to have contact a little bit further around on the lap somewhere, I think, as he did retire very early on indeed. In fact, I think he technically retired before Tim Delisle and Rob Bohr.
I think that, yeah, this was it Madsen? I think he just managed to keep it quite clean for the entire race. He managed to finish in 12th place in the end to Peter Madsen from 22nd on the grid. So just using those tactics, and yeah, I did extremely well in the end.
Okay, cool. All right, so I think that will wrap up our broadcast of the night then. Say it was a frantic start to the race, and then lots of recovering going on from there. We look forward to seeing a hopefully less instant field race, but more just as entertaining at COTA next week. Clocks change in the UK, of course, overnight tonight, but that is going to not affect the actual GMT time of the broadcasted race course. So it's still at 8 o'clock GMT, but then that will actually be an hour earlier for any UK viewers next week. And so there's going to be lots of confusion during this week with all our broadcasts lining up, as we have UK series who are moving an hour earlier GMT to keep the same UK time. We're going to have US broadcasts who actually their clocks change a week later. So just have a look on our YouTube channel for the start times of the streams that you want to follow to make sure you don't miss any of the action. And yeah, tomorrow we're going to have AMF Aussie Mixed and Fixed in the morning. We've got a one-off special of a charity race for Race for Cure. That's going to be tomorrow evening. And then we've got our usual schedule for the rest of the week. World GT Monday, MX5 Pro on Tuesday, as well as IMSA Official during the day. Sim Race as well, GT Pro on Wednesday, with a week off, I think, of ARL TCR on Thursday. Friday then will be IndyCar's official series. before then we come back on Saturday to V8 Supercars Junior Day, and then, as I say, back here next week at the same GMT time for the iRacing Formula 3.5 Championship. So thank you to Sam Fitzpatrick for joining me on commentary, and Samuli for working the cameras as usual. We look forward to seeing you all again next week for more 3.5s.